Here's something I wish more people understood about fatigue. It's not only about what you do, it's about what's driving what you do. And very often, what's driving our behaviour is our values and our beliefs. It's easier to explain this if you visualise an iceberg. What you see above the surface, the visible part of the iceberg, is the behaviour, the actions that you take. But underneath the surface are the values and the beliefs that shape those actions in the first place. Let me give you an example. You might hold core values like kindness and caring and loyalty. And you might believe that it's important to support others, especially when they're struggling. Now, this is a beautiful value base and belief system to hold. But if supporting others becomes a way of avoiding your own feelings, especially the painful and difficult ones after tough experiences such as a bereavement, for example, then an unprocessed emotional charge can stay within your energy system, within your body. And I often describe these emotional charges as like having lots of little open tabs on your browser. They don't always take up a lot of energy until you click on one, and then suddenly the whole system slows down. Unprocessed emotional charges can be like that, sitting in the background, quietly draining away your energy, or maybe even things that you actively avoid dealing with or going to or looking at because they're too sore. And because emotions follow thoughts, if you have a mind that is constantly going back to and replaying a painful event, or perhaps thinking forward into a future and playing out scenarios about things that you're worried may happen, your emotional body responds to that, and that response costs you precious energy. For example, for me, honesty is a core value. It influences how I speak, what I tolerate, and what I step away from. So if someone lies to me, I make a definite decision to limit the amount of time I interact with them. Values aren't just ideas, they actually shape how our nervous system responds and also how we interact with the people around us. So, how does this link back to your chronic fatigue? If someone has, for example, a core value of working hard and a belief that their worth depends on their achievement or on being dependable, then they'll tend to push and push even when their body is asking for rest because they want to live up to and fulfill their value and belief. And this is why I talk so much about curiosity and encourage you to be a curious observer of what's going on for you. Curiosity allows you to notice what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and it kind of gives you this, that's interesting kind of commentary. And it's very different to judgment, which sounds a lot like, well, blimey, what's wrong with me for thinking that way or doing that thing? Curiosity gives you options, whereas judgment kind of drains your energy. And when you look at the world, your world, with curiosity, it then becomes an awful lot about marginal gains. this idea that lots of tiny shifts in your energy add up to having more energy. And this concept of marginal gains comes from the world of Team GB cycling, where they were looking for that 0.1% improvement in everything, so that those 0.1% add up to a much more substantial improvement in their performances. And it's exactly the same with your energy. Each time you tweak or change something that's draining your energy, those improvements compound up to and lead to having more energy. So here's a simple exercise for you to think about. Pause the video if you need to, but I'd like you to name one of your behaviours that may be draining you right now. And I'm thinking specifically about overdoing it, maybe people pleasing, maybe overthinking, maybe saying yes when you mean no. There's just some ideas. You may have something else that's going on that is a behaviour that you recognise drains your energy. And when you found that behaviour, I'd then like you to, again, pause the video and ask yourself, what's the value that I have that's underneath this behaviour? Might it be kindness or loyalty or feelings of responsibility or honesty or fairness? I mean, the list goes on and on. So take a moment to think about what might the value be. And then I'd like you to ask yourself, how could I honour my value without sacrificing my nervous system? I think you might be quite surprised at what comes up when you listen to your internal voice with curiosity instead of with judgment. Because this is where the marginal gains come about. If you'd like ongoing support to explore this gently, the free Owning Your Energy webinar series runs monthly. You can register once and receive the invitations throughout the year to join the webinars. The link is below. And my website is also linked if you'd like to explore working together.